I often get asked, how do you know it's time to write another book? I usually answer when I have something to say. Pages I'm holding here came about because I had something to say. Or to put it better, I had to say something.
Meet author Mitch Albom. When he has something to say, people want to listen. His books have collectively sold 28 million copies. First, there was Tuesdays with Morrie, his debut memoir. He shared the life lessons of his dying college professor. So popular, it was made into a film starring Hank Azaria.
The last class of my old professor's life took place once a week on Tuesdays. The subject was the meaning of life.
More than 12 years on, Mitch is back with something new to say, this time on the subject of faith. And it all started with a question posed by his hometown rabbi.
This rabbi, who was 82 years old, who was really the only rabbi I'd had my entire life, and he asked me to step out into the hallway, and the question was, will you do my eulogy when I die? I basically said, well, I need to get to know you better as a man if I'm going to do the eulogy when you die. You know, I only know you from the seats, you know, from the not even the good seats. I was in the back. And that began what I thought would be a series of maybe a few months that I would meet with him and try to get to see the man behind the robes in the pulpit. But he ended up living another 8 years until he was 90. And so it became an 8-year journey that ultimately changed my view of faith and sort of brought me a bit back from the wandering that I had done, you know, in the 25 years prior to.
That wandering began when Mitch left his hometown of South Jersey and established his career. With the move, though, came a departure from his belief in faith.
I think a lot of my generation, anyhow, was brought up with faith. You know, we were dragged to Hebrew school, we were dragged to our bar mitzvahs or bas mitzvahs, you know, we were dragged to a confirmation class or whatever, and then they set you free. And of course, most people spring out and they go, free! And they run away from it to some degree. And I ran away from it to a pretty large degree. And I think over time, I became somewhat cynical about the whole idea of faith, even though I remembered my upbringing, and it was pretty fervent, you know, my upbringing. I went to a religious day school and a religious high school, and half the day was taught in Hebrew.
But Mitch soon regained his belief in faith. And it wasn't only through his experiences with the rabbi, but with a Detroit pastor who was a former drug dealer. And so it was those two men, Rabbi Albert Lewis and Pastor Henry Covington, who ultimately changed his outlook on life.
I was able to sort of see on a daily basis some of the beauty of quiet faith, you know, lived in a way of helping other people and believing in other people and caring about your family and your community. And it was hard to be cynical when, you know, you were around people like this rabbi or this pastor who was helping homeless people who were sleeping on the floor of his church, and the church had a giant hole in its roof, and rain and snow would fall down in on top of them, and yet they still would get up and pray inside a little plastic tent inside their church. So I had my eyes opened, and ultimately I think I had my heart opened as well.
One of the most poignant lines in the book was actually the very last line of the book, where you write, "I'm in love with hope." And I was wondering if it was through this whole journey that was the conclusion that you came to. Was that the best way to sum up this journey that you'd been on?
I tried to absorb all of those experiences into one sort of conclusion. In the end, this sentence just sort of came to me that said, you know, I feel good about all this, having done all this now. You know, I was cynical 10 years ago, and I'm not anymore. And what's the opposite of cynicism? Hope, faith, belief.
You've said that Have a Little Faith is the most important book you've ever written. So why do you think that is?
Because I think we're at a point in the world's history where faith has brought us to a crossroads. And we're either going to have to learn how to get along with one another's faiths, or we're going to destroy one another, and we're going to kill one another, and we're going to blow the world up. And My hope is that we go the alternate way, that we learn to find the things that faith has in common, no matter how it's practiced. It's not that hard. And if only that message came out of that book, I would have felt that I did my tiny little infinitesimally small part to try to make the world a little bit better rather than a little bit worse.